again. Hello, Briarcliff Bulldogs.
Sup, dogs? And same to you, Miss Jennifer. So good to see you here in your natural habitat, the garden. You are from North Carolina, aren't you?
Actually, I was born in Tennessee, but I've been in North Carolina so long I feel like a native.
Native. We were just talking about native plants in our garden, right? Plants that are originally found in North Carolina. Which ones are those?
Yep, some of those milkweed that we planted in the butterfly garden as a host plant for our monarchs. Those are native, and a lot of our trees, like the loblolly pines and some of our oak trees and the sweet gum trees, you know, the ones that drop all those little pointy balls. Those are all native, and actually some of these ornamental grasses are native too.
Huh. So what is the big deal about native plants, or animals for that matter? Does it matter that others join in our little menagerie?
Native organisms, individual animals or plants, are kind of a big deal. They are the ones very specifically adapted to this environment, the ones best suited in this particular food web. Remember our little talk about food webs?
Ah, yes. And how each organism filled a specific role, right? Producer and consumer, and then predator and prey?
Exactly. Native plants and animals are literally made to fill those roles. They struggle the least to survive because they've been here a long time. They use the least amount of water, using their resources most effectively, thus keeping their habitat the most balanced and stable.
Habitat. That's like the animal's crib, right? Their homestead, their happy place.
More or less, yes. A habitat is the place an animal lives that provides food, water, and shelter for that organism.
Oh yeah, like that checklist we did a couple years ago with the fourth graders to certify this garden as a natural habitat. We had to go through and confirm that we had multiple food sources and water sources, and then places for animals to hide and to nest.
Yep, love bringing that learning outside the classroom, especially when we can't go on field trips.
So what does happen when organisms that aren't native to North Carolina join our habitat?
Sometimes they start to take the place of native organisms, and they can destabilize the food web. When there's unhealthy competition for food and resources, especially by a species that is extremely hardy and tough to get rid of, they can eliminate the native competition, thus cutting down on the healthy biodiversity or variety in the habitat. They can not only mess with a food web, but they can cause destruction to a habitat as well.
Yeah, that's what the English ivy is doing in our yard. It's a beast to get rid of. Then it climbs and can kill our trees. Totally sus.
Yes, English ivy is an invasive species in North Carolina, originally brought over from, shocking, England as an ornamental plant. Now it takes over everything, stealing producer roles of native North Carolina plants and food webs, and damaging habitats through its infestation of tree trunks.
So what can we do about invasive species? Do we just sit back and watch them take over?
Come, Pinky. Let us prepare for tomorrow night.
What are we going to do tomorrow night?
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Try to take over the world.
One of the best ways to fight an invasion is with a good soldier. Sometimes that's you and your yard clippers. Sometimes it's finding a natural predator. Maybe a goat?
Oh my goodness. I just learned about this at a pet store. Can we go on a field trip even if the students can't? Maybe virtual learning isn't all bad. We'll virtually take them along. When the store gets in aquatic plants, sometimes they carry these invasive snails with them, and they can be destructive to the tank. When they see these snails, they move a larger goldfish over to that tank, the snail's natural predator, and the goldfish chows down, eliminating the snail population. Escar, go away, snails!
Awesome example. That goldfish is the perfect example of a beneficial change to that habitat. Something good that happens to benefit the natural state. That goldfish isn't hurting the other things in that habitat, but he is helping to safely eliminate a threat.
I didn't think about it that way. A beneficial change to a habitat. What would be another example of that?
The things we are doing to make our school grounds more suitable for organisms who would normally live here. Putting out feeders and houses for birds whose wooded habitat might have been changed when the school was built is a helpful, beneficial change.
Ah, but the opposite also holds true. For every good hero, you need a good villain, right? Harmful changes that mess with the balance in a habitat can cause destruction, loss of that good biodiversity. A drought, flooding, or a fire can be very harmful to a habitat. In the store, I also learned the importance of water temperature for the fish, especially those ones used to living in warmer climates. Just a few degrees in either direction can kill the whole tank.
Yikes. Makes you wonder how poor organisms are supposed to survive in such a tough world.
Right? I guess they gotta adapt, huh?
Nailed it. Animals have an amazing way of surviving this fish-eat-snail world. Speaking of which, let's take a look at a horned nearite snail. What do you think?
I think for a fish with no teeth, that looks painful.
Exactly. This snail has a physical advantage to those other invasive snails, a structural adaptation to discourage fish from eating it.
Huh, yeah, so structural. Something to do with the structure of an organism's physical body. Cool. That reminds me of this frog Jude found up the road. I took a picture. Can you see it? So camo would be a structural adaptation, a protective one, right? Is it always just about the physical? I mean, what about the heart of an animal?
Yes. Sometimes animals can be great actors, like our native eastern hognose snake. When threatened, it will totally fake like he's dying, rolling over on his back, hanging out his tongue, and even lets out a really bad smell.
Love it. Now I'm thinking about our betta fish, Ollivander. When he's threatened, his courageous tiny heart takes over. He spreads out his fins, even opens up his gills so that he looks bigger and meaner. This is that behavioral adaptation. His behavior is helping him survive. The way he's acting all tough and mean might make another someone think twice before taking him on. You can just tell that fish was born sassy.
Yes, again. In a betta like this behavior is instinctive or innate.
So no fishy mommy or daddy showed him what to do? He just naturally knows how to strut his stuff?
That's right. It's an instinct. He just knows what to do when it happens.
Okay, so let's bring this full circle. What about a native North Carolina organism that instinctively does something wicked cool to survive?
So North Carolina has a wood frog that can basically become a frozen zombie in order to survive during winter.
What?
Yeah, a chemical reaction takes place in its body that causes like 2/3 of his body water to turn into ice. It's amazing. And the caterpillar of the eastern swallowtail butterfly has horns that pop out of its head whenever it's threatened. Pretty cool stuff.
That is ridiculous and crazy cool. I feel like the new Marvel movies should all be based on animals' defense mechanisms. Oh wait, Black Panther, Ant-Man, and the Wasp. Spider-Man.
Right. And we haven't even talked about learned behaviors yet.
What? They can learn things too?
Of course. NC State did this cool study where they put out identical dishes, one blue with water and the other yellow that had sugar water in it. After some trial and error, the honeybees learned to only go for the yellow bowl. Then they switched it up on the bees and laid the blue sugar water and the yellow just plain water. The bees actually went straight to the yellow bowl, but then after just a couple of visits, they learned to go to the blue bowl instead.
Bee training. And here I was getting really excited about teaching my cats to come when I call them for dinner.
Again, learned behavior. You've taught them with a food incentive to come when you call them. Animals are pretty great.
Yep, excellent therapy snugglers too.
You know it.
I need to go snuggle my therapy cat.
Agreed. Here's to continuing to learn about
Life outside the classroom.